Welcome to another episode of Mind Your Mind, the podcast. My name is Joshua Awesome. Many like to call me the Awesome Coach. I am humbled and grateful for my friends at Organo who support this podcast. So you possibly know, if you've been watching this podcast, that Organo Gold is a 15-year-old brand that is interested in taking the treasures of the earth to the world. And these are some of their products. My guest is going to be having the mocha, the latte is another very interesting one. The king of coffee is one that I particularly love, and if you've watched my story about my spinal injury recovery, you possibly heard that I was consuming that and how it became an adaptogen to support my recovery. And then there's the green tea, the black, the red, which has cordyceps in it, and also Ganoderma lucidum. The Royal Black is an amazing new one that has cordyceps, lion's mane, and Ganoderma lucidum. Of course, the Supreme is supreme in itself, and then the hot chocolate. Now, you know that I always like to start this Mind Your Mind podcast by saying I have a very special guest, because everyone is special. And my guest is someone who I have respect for her growth in the energy space. And like I like to do, I like people to introduce themselves in the way they would like people to know them. So my name is Joshua Awesome. Join me in welcoming Eliwe Babaso. Pleasure to have you.
Likewise, Josh. Thank you very much.
So how would you like our guests and our viewers to actually know you, if you were to introduce yourself?
If I were to introduce myself, my name is Eliwe Mabaso. I am a wife of one, a mother of two beautiful girls. I'm a social performance practitioner, a communication specialist, and a strategist. I work in the renewable energy space, and my heart is in the community. I do community development for a living.
Tell us about that, community development for a living. I kind of like, that, last piece of what you do. What is a day like in a community development professional or practitioner?
A day in the life of a community development practitioner is a lot of reading, so a lot of coffee. A lot of reading, a lot of research, but more than anything, it's to immerse yourself in communities, so rural communities, trying to understand what the needs are, trying to understand sometimes what the past traumas are that are causing the gaps in the communities, and then developing programs to try and mitigate those challenges. So my favorite example is always maths and science. In the age of 4IR, everybody wants people to go to university to study STEM. But when you get into rural communities, our children are struggling with basic foundations of mathematics. We don't have enough people going onto our bursary programs. So as a development practitioner, you try and understand what is the root cause of the maths challenge in the community, and then you start addressing the root causes as opposed to addressing the symptoms that cause that gap in maths and science.
Interesting, guys. It looks as if I have a guest here who embodies some of the values that Mind Your Mind talks about. And I'm deeply grateful that you talked about the root causes, which leads me to, talking about Mind Your Mind, how to stress less and achieve more. Which chapter is the chapter that you would say stands out for you?
All. All. But definitely chapter one. Definitely chapter one. I think when you go into reading the book initially, you think about reading it like a novel. right? So you try to read it end to end,
Uh,
but then you realize it's a journal.
mm,
It's a mindfulness journal with
Mm.
active activities and exercises that you can do
mm,
to bring yourself towards yourself. And I think that's what I like about chapter 1. It's a
mm.
very practical how to get back within yourself
Right,
and prepare yourself for the journey that you're about to go on with.
right. Anyway, I like the way you put it, Journey within yourself. You know, I always like to say it this way, that the one person you will be with for the rest of your life is you. So you really need to be loving you, enjoying you. And if you have not been loving you, look within. Spend more time understanding yourself. We have a lot of time for people. We have time for work. We have time for school. We have time for extended family. But many times we don't have time for ourselves.
Indeed.
And it's your birthday very soon, so
Very soon.
me time for you will be a very interesting, thing to experience, because I know you for that. You love to take some time to nurture and nourish yourself. So we say happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
So tell me about the activity that you love with Breathing Beginnings, and that's chapter 1 that you were talking about. And there are 5 of them. There's the Rise and Shine with Consciousness, Find a New Focus, Deep Breaths for Inner Peace, Scan Your Body, and Heartitude.
Scan your body. Mom of 2, wife of 1, you usually open your eyes and your feet on the ground and you start your day without even being conscious about it, right? But I think scanning your body collectively with everything else, scanning your body allows you the time to think, reflect, acknowledge, but also be grateful, Josh. Be grateful. You can still blink, you can still breathe, you can still put your feet on the ground, you can still get up, right? And that puts you to that gratitude. So you set the tone for your day. You're already thinking right. You're already acknowledging that your body is still fully functional in its form. So those are that definitely is a favorite activity for me.
As you were talking about scan your body, and then you highlighted, the fact that you're a mother of 2, and you have a lot to do, get your feet on the ground, and it reminded me of someone during the African Mental Health Symposium. The person was like, it's easy to do this talking. Where, we have to do this in the morning. How do you, manage this?
How do I manage? I think what I've learned, Josh, I think it's also through reading the book and reinforcing some of the lessons from other books, right? So if you're an avid reader like myself and you really believe in self-help, Mind Your Mind is a collection of many other books. So if you've read Start With Why, if you've read Who Moved My Cheese, if you've read 5 a.m. Club, it's just reinforcing some of those lessons that you might have learned from another book and giving you a more practical approach on how you can do them. So for me, this year, I think more than anything, it's challenged me to wake up earlier. I do not like waking up earlier. Anybody who knows me knows I don't like waking up earlier, but I found that if I'm going to have enough time to ground myself, to make time to be conscious in my day, I need to start the day earlier and accommodate myself. So I wake up an hour or 2, like an hour and a half earlier than I would before, to give myself an hour in the morning for Teliwe. To bring Teliwe into the room and be ready to start the day.
I like the fact that you said the time for Teliwe and bring Teliwe into the room. A coach recently on another podcast recommended that one of the things that we should do in the morning while we're trying to brush our teeth is to affirm ourselves through the mirror. So it's like you are showing up, noticing you, allowing you to also, enjoy being here. Because today is what we have,
Indeed.
And as you talked about scan your body, I want to take a moment to just, for the benefit of those who have not read Mind Your Mind, to just touch on that one that talks about breathing beginnings. And the activities, quite interesting, I must say. Many times we are in flurry hurry. We're not noticing ourselves. We, even when people give a compliment, we find it hard to accept it. When we scan our body, one of the things that it literally does is it helps us to appreciate ourselves.
Indeed.
And we need to be doing more of that, eh? We celebrate everybody, but we don't celebrate ourselves. I know that there's a chapter that talks to parenting.
Yes, my favorite.
Let's go, Eliwe.
I mean, I avoided that chapter, Josh. I think, after I got the book, we had a conversation, and I said, I know I've read everything, and when I get to that parenting chapter, I skip it. And I try not to read it. But then, when I started allowing myself, right, to read that chapter and to see what it means for me as a parent, it also made me realize that sometimes we adopt concepts, let's call it Western, for lack of a better word.
Right.
That might not be what you need for your household at the time. And one of those concepts that I was struggling with was gentle parenting, because I was gentle parenting, but given the context of being a black child, I was overcompensating in my gentle parenting, and I found that it was affecting my eldest in terms of work ethic and understanding the consequences of a bad and a good decision. So cause effect.
Right.
Those neural pathways were just not for me. But after reading that chapter, I realized you can parent. Discipline is not a bad thing. Just as long as you are conscious about what you're doing,
right,
and you are informing your child on the process that you're going to follow with them.
And what does that look like? Because you were talking about gentle parenting and it didn't sit well. Because my sense is many times when something doesn't sit well with you, it's either interfering with a certain belief system that has been ingrained. Do you want to share a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, in my very layman's understanding of what I thought gentle parenting was, I'm from a home where if you are wrong, the belt. That's the common culture norm that we see. And when society started talking against the parenting that we know, hitting your child was just a no-no. You can't discipline like that. When you discipline, you take away the device, you switch off the TV and all that stuff.
Right.
My children don't have devices. Consciously.
Amazing!
My children don't have devices.
Lovely.
Because you can't really monitor what they're watching. I also found that it makes them less conscious. They become what they watch. Right? So I had an incident with my eldest where there was a certain behavior that was repeating, and this gentle parenting, the way I understood it, was just not working. Then Josh says in his book, everything we do must be conscious in the way that we're doing it, right? And I'm helping this young one form neural pathways. I'm helping her create a decision-making system in her head. And I decided I'm going to do what my mother used to do. My mother used to use the belt, she used to spank, but she always used to inform you why you are being hit and what the cause or the effect of that was. So my eldest has a challenge where she knows her duty or her chore to come back from school and wash her socks. Anybody who has a preteen knows it's not their favorite thing to do. So she stopped doing that. But she knows she's wrong. So she hides them so mommy and daddy can't see them.
Shame, eh?
So we get a call from the school and the school says, ma'am, so-and-so has so many socks in the bag, we don't know what's going on. And I call her back from school and I say, today I'm going to exercise, consciously going to exercise, disciplining my child, but I'm going to do it the way I know, and that is with spanking. So I say to her, Nana, bring your bag, let's take out all the things that are in your bag and all the things that shouldn't be in there.
Okay.
And for each thing that's in there that shouldn't be in there, it's one spank.
A
very you know, it's not corporal punishment. I'm not trying to kill her. It's a light hitting. And she brings out pair of socks, and I said, for each one, it's a little spank. She says, 1, 2. By the third one, tears are rolling. And I ask her, I say, so what's the problem? And she says, they're not supposed to be in my bag.
So she's aware, and her consciousness level is rising. I'm listening.
I say, okay. She says, I know it's going to hurt when you hit me. I say, so now what must we? So I said, so what option do we have? And she said, I need to take the punishment, but I mustn't do it again.
Wow.
So we went through the process, you know, kids tried to toughen up. We gave the first spank, the second spank. By the third one, she started hardening herself. She didn't want to cry. And I said, you need to cry. You need to cry. You need to feel the feeling. You need to tell me what it is that's making you upset. And she said, because I've made a mistake when I know that I'm supposed to wash my socks every day. And that was the first and last time we did that exercise. And we are yet to find more dirty socks in her bags.
Wow.
Funny enough, not so long ago, this incident was early in the year. It's around about just after I got the book, and about early on in this month, yes, what month is November? Early in November, she says, Mommy, guess what? I'm never forgetting stuff in my bag again, because I know if I don't do it, if I forget stuff, I'm going to get a little spank.
How amazing. Liliwe, thank you for sharing that story. You know, as I listen to you share that story, my mind goes back to the quote that opens that chapter on parenting beyond the norm. And it says, if your parents didn't know how to hold you, you developed the mind you held yourself with. So you find safety in this mind you created. How interesting. And it's quite insightful, because you took a stand that has shifted the outcomes right now for your child. And if you recall, you initially were not too sure if you should take that decision.
No, I wasn't at all.
In other words, there's really no manual for you know, how to really, you know, parent. So if we're going to parent beyond the norm, we should believe in our child, and we should, you know, choose joy, because you made a choice. You wanted her to feel it, but also choose to be a better version of herself, and your own mind was also being minded there, because in between you were like
feeling bad.
and I remember you saying that,
I was feeling so bad, right? Because also when we start learning about mental health and the impact that certain punishment has on a child long term, nobody wants to be the parent that created lifelong trauma for their child. But I also found that by overcompensating and not putting boundaries, I was failing her. I'm not saying my approach is perfect, but she's also got the space to say, Mommy, next time let's try something else.
It's a journey, eh?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing journey that we should take with confidence. We should, you know, show up in and parenting beyond the norm. You started by talking about a system that was not applicable to your home. And we can all learn from that. Who says you need to follow a script that somebody out there who is not in your space, who is not wearing the shoes you're wearing, who is not where you are, who doesn't have the cultural competence that you have? And these are some of the things that I really think we should embrace. When I think of parenting beyond the norm, I think of recognizing that what feels normal to A maybe abnormal to be.
Indeed.
So as we begin to wrap up, is there any thoughts that is creeping into your mind around, this journey that literally has, stood out for you since you're reading this book?
I think it's a book that you must read a few times. I think your first interaction with the book is like with any other. You read it, you think you put it down. But what I found was that when I used it as a journal, when I said it's 14 days of mind your mind, and you take each chapter each day and you reflect, you get a better impact of it. We were also very fortunate, both my husband and I got the book.
Yes.
So we hold each other accountable. If I jump out of the bed.
And I would like to interview him soon. I hope he's able to find some time for us.
But if I start my day and I just jump out of the bed, he'll say, "Attitude."
Lovely.
So yeah, take it easy. Embrace the book. Embrace the lessons in the book, and try some of the exercises. The one that I tried, Josh, and I read it, and Josh says, "Take a cold shower." What? What country does this guy live in? The book came out in the middle.
We
of
both
winter.
live in South Africa. Yeah, and it came out during winter.
In the middle of winter, it's cold. But I've tried it recently, where I found my mind just racing. And I've taken a cold shower, and indeed there's a shock, something happens that brings you back within yourself. So try it, even when it doesn't seem right. Try it once and see.
And I think this could be a good one as we begin to wrap up. Chapter 15 talks about living your best life. And I think one thing that many people don't take seriously is when they're approaching a state of burnout. They don't take how they are feeling seriously. And as the year is coming to an end, many people possibly are, already feeling tired. So maybe this is a time to practice that, and take a cold shower. And there was one thing that you would like to leave with the listeners, the viewers. What would that be that you haven't said?
I haven't said, not necessarily, but I'd go back to finding yourself. I think for women, right? I'm being biased. For women, mothers and wives, more often than not, you tend to lose yourself. Someone's calling you baby, mama kasbani bani. You hardly ever hear your own name, and your name reminds you of who you are. So this opportunity to scan and think. Call yourself by name. When you think, when you reflect, call yourself by name, and make sure that you're always within yourself and you always remember who you are.
Amazing. I love the fact that you are trying to bring us back to remembering, because many times people tend to forget. And it reminds me of a very funny story. And it was in a movie. A woman was being called for her appointment, and she was sitting at the waiting room of a hospital, and they were calling her name over and over again, and she suddenly said, "Why is that person not responding?" And then it then kicked in that, "Oh, I'm actually that person." So affirm yourself, call your name. And talking about calling your name, thank you, Eliwe.
Thank you
for honoring us, and we are grateful to you and Mr. Mabaso for, trusting us with some of your resources to have bought 2 of this book. My name is Joshua Awesome. I am deeply grateful that we've been able to have another interesting Mind Your Mind podcast. I always like to close by saying, for you, me, and all of us to have a better world, it needs to begin by having better brains. Bye for now.